So hi everyone. Today we're gonna talk about the transaction. So let me go on the syllabus. Let me see what we have for for lab today. Um, Other than transaction, so we cover all of them. Um, we also cover login, schema, user, all of the others topic. But our main agenda is to cover the transaction. I was planning to cover also cursor, but uh, due to not having uh, good amount of time, which why I'm not gonna cover the cursor today. I'm probably gonna include in any other class, maybe in lab 9 or 10. Anyway, so let's talk about the transaction. What is a transaction? So let me go to the day 6 here. So yeah, so what is a transaction? So a transaction in its entity can commit to a database as a single logical unit or rollback. Um, as a single unit, it ensures that either all of the commands are performed or none of them. If one of them, if one of the commands, not commands actually, one of the commands fails in the transaction, the entire transaction commands will fail. So the related data will be rolled back. Um, and transactions are essential for maintaining the database integrity. So transaction actually handle the asset property, right? And there are four. Let me close this out. So there are four asset properties we know. So these are uh, atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. So these are the key properties transaction have. Each transaction in SQL Server has. So the atomicity, all of operation complete successfully or none, right? It makes sure this that the all operation, the all commands that we place either is fully uh, committed or not, right? And consistent database may remain consistent and before and after the transaction, right? And the isolation is where the transactions are executed independently. Isolation keeps the transaction separate from each other. So you cannot place two transactions at the same time for a single thing. Has to be one after another, right? Durability. Once committed, changes are permanent, right? So means that if we commit a transaction, right? If the transaction is committed, um, it is actually saved in the data file, and you cannot just roll back it. Means you cannot go to previous state. So committed transactions are permanently saved. So anyway, we're gonna go on a practical and see how we can actually do all of this. So let me open the SSMS and we'll go from there. So let it open. All right, so I'm gonna connect to my one of my server, which is called production server. And if I go there, if I go to the database, I have a database called MasterDB, and which has two table. Let me see what I have in this table. Um, Basically, I do not have anything. How about this one? Looks like it has something. Um, so let me let me just insert. Let me just what I have over here. I'll just insert everything from here to there. So okay. So yeah, I'm gonna work on the product details because I don't wanna let's not make this table. I'm gonna use this table for any other purposes. So whatever I have in this table, I will actually transfer it to our product details. So Let's do so. Insert into, and then insert into this, select everything from the database using the master database. So let me insert all those four record from this serial to this product details. So currently our product detail is empty, so let's insert some values, right? Anyway, let me insert those values. Okay, so four rows has been affected. Let me just make sure if they are there. Okay, so data is there, so I'm not gonna touch this table. Let's work on the product details. So I'm gonna let's close this session. Maybe, yeah, let's close all of them. And we have the this table. Let me open the session for it. So these four data are fully committed. Is already saved in the data file, right? So let me now show what is a transaction. Let's say I want to update a record. Let's say I want to update the product one value. Product price is like 500, right? I wanna like increase the value. I wanna increase the price. So what I can do, I can update it, right? But let's say I'm not, let's say 100% sure that price is gonna be 550. Let's say I'm gonna make it 550, right? My manager told me to make it 550, but then uh, he's not yet sure, but he says, hey, make the transaction, then maybe either you can commit it later or roll back it. Roll back mean I can go back to previous state. Once I committed, there is no rollback, right? So, but let's say he told me to make this price as 550. Let's say. So what I can do, I can actually update it, right? Update the uh, product price, right? Update the product price to what? 550. So I'm gonna go update. What I'm gonna update? I'm gonna update the product details, right? This is the table I'm gonna update and set product price equal to price equal to what? 550. Where product ID equal to what? 1. I wanna update this record, right? And I wanna change it to 500. So that's what I got. Once I execute this query, it will actually commit it. And once that is committed, there is no rollback. So if I run this query, it will be actually saved there, right? Let's say I want to actually make it to 550. So what I can do, I can just execute this query. Now if I if I execute the query, let me copy this from here. Lazy to type. Let me, now you see 550 is there. But let's say now I change it. Now my manager says, hey, go back to the previous state, and I don't know what's the previous, and that's an issue. Now I have to assume the number and then change it. But let's say there is 1,000 of values that I change like this. Now I cannot just manually change them, right? What I can do, I have no other option, right? So in that case, sometime we can actually open a transaction, and then uh, if things goes right, we can commit it and simply save in the disk. If it's not, we can roll back. We can go to the previous state. Let's say this is the previous state for now. Let's say the actual price is product ID's price, right, is 550. Now let's say I want to make to $1,000, but I'm not sure if I have to go back. I have to roll back. Maybe I might need to roll back. So what I can do, open I can open a transaction and not commit it. So let me show you. So what I have to say, you have to begin transaction, or you can just say begin tran. You can also do this like this. Either way works for. So I'm gonna say begin transaction. That's better. And what I'm gonna say, if I execute this query, you will see it will change. The value will change. But guess what? Value will be changed, but it will not be actually committed data, because I haven't said anything about commit, if data will be committed or not. So it will be actually stored. The logs are used to be stored in the logs, right? Until I commit, and it will be saved in the data file. So let me execute it. If I execute it, one row affected. If I select it, select everything from this table, and you'll see that it will be 1000, right? But this is just showing the data that uh, the data is whatever logs, whatever the transaction I made is there, but it is not actually saved, right? I can actually go back to previous state. If I want to go back to previous state, what I have to say, all I can say is a rollback, and rollback transaction, it will bring back those previous price, which was 550. But before that, I want to show you something. If I open a new query, let's say using the same database, if I select it, select everything from this table, let me copy the table, and then you see it's loading. It just few data, 4 data, and it's keep loading. Look, 3, 4, it's keep increasing. So what is happening? Another session got locked. Another session got locked by my current session. Either I have to commit it or roll back it in order to this to be executed, because data is not yet committed. This data that I made the transaction is not committed, right? So what I can say, transaction, I can set commit transaction, and it will actually commit transaction. Now if I run it, commit transaction, now if I go there, you'll see it is there automatically, change the value. But now I cannot just roll back. I cannot go to the previous state, because once I say commit, there is no rollback. Now let's say I made this one to $2,000 now, right? I made it into $2,000. If I run it, you will see $2,000 over here, but the data is not yet committed. Now if I say transaction rollback, right? So rollback transaction, what I call roll back. So if I do rollback transaction, what it's gonna do, it will simply bring back to previous state. What it was, it had a $1,000, right? It will go back to that previous. So if I say rollback, you will see that it went to the previous state. So that's how we can utilize transaction. This is the example. You can utilize in many other way, right? There is many things you can do with the transaction. Sometimes we want to play with the transaction, when to save, when to not, when to get rollback. So sometimes, let's say you're making some changes, definitely you can open a transaction. Once you confirm, you can just commit the transaction. If let's say you made a mistake, you can just roll back the transaction, go back to previous state, and you save yourself. So that's what you can do with the help of transaction. And one other thing I say, let's say I want to change this price. Let's say I want to delete this record. Let's say what I'm gonna say, instead of update, I'm gonna make it a comment. Now if you say how I did, so I select it and Control K and C. While holding the control, I press K and C, and it comment the entire thing, right? And you can press Control K and U, and it will bring back the comment again. Or you can also click here. It will do the same thing. Anyway, so I'm just gonna remove this. So because all the command does not get executed. So what I'm gonna say, I'm gonna delete the last record. Let's say I'm gonna make a transaction. I'm gonna make a transaction that deleting this last record, but let's say I want to roll back later. Let's say I'm not sure that I can delete it or not. Let's say my manager says, hey, delete this record, but he's not also sure to delete it, right? He says, hey, we probably need to delete the record. Can you do it now? And then he is like, he's not sure, or he's like, hey, delete or not, maybe not delete it, and just so. But it's like a requirement that you need to delete. So what you can do, um, make a transaction, right? Let's say I make a begin transaction, and what I can say, delete, right, from the table name, which is the product details, and then what I'm gonna say, uh, where where product ID equal to 4, let's say. So the last record I'm trying to delete. Now let's remove this. We don't need this line. I'm gonna put it somewhere here. Let's see. And I'm gonna also align it like it so it looks good. So yeah. So I begin the transaction. I'm deleting the last record. Let's delete the last record. Let's see if it works. Now it says one row affected, right? If I run it, you'll no longer see the last record has been deleted. But we haven't commit the data, right? We haven't commit this transaction. So that means, let's say 1 hour later, my manager says, hey, by mistake we delete the record. Can we do whatever? Can we bring the data? What are you gonna do? You have the option to roll back. So you say roll back transaction. It will bring back the data. But at the same time, let's say some other session, let's say this session wants to see it. This session wants to see is getting locked by this session, your current session. So what you have to do, you can actually set the transaction to uncommit. If you set the transaction to uncommit, right, the isolation level, there's a we have isolation level, which I'm going to talk on the later session, but I just want to talk about one, which is one of them is the read uncommitted isolation level. Why need to set read isolation level to read uncommitted? That means you can see the uncommitted data, but by default it should be read committed, right? By default, what is it? Read committed, right? But for this session, let's say I want to turn into the uncommitted, means even though this session has not been committed, I want to also see the data. So what I can do, I can actually set the transaction isolation level to read uncommitted. So set transaction isolation level to what? Read actually uncommitted, read uncommitted. So what I'm gonna also, let me run the query bottom here from. Now if I set it read uncommitted, that means any uncommitted data will be shown here. So let me stop it, execute this, and if I run it, you'll be able to see the uncommitted data. Now watch it out. Now the data is what? 1, 2, 3. If I go to this session, I roll back, let's say. I'm gonna roll back to what? Previous state what we have. So roll back transaction. Now let's run it. Go there and rerun once again. You will see that data is back. This is the work of transaction, and I will talk about the isolation level in broader picture in our upcoming lab, but this is what I have for our transaction. So these are the things you can do. So just you have to use the word begin and tran, right, or transaction, right? You can use like this also, or you can just type the entire transaction, and you have to either commit the transaction or roll back it. So I roll back it. You can commit it. It's up to you how you wanna work it out with it, and there's a lot of thing we you can do with transaction. Sometimes we have large transaction, and then we sometimes need to keep them on hold, and then we commit them once we need. Sometimes we do mistake, we can go back to, we can do rollback and so many other stuff. Anyway guys, this is what I have for transaction. It's a simple simplistic way to explain transaction. Anyway, see you in the next lab. Thanks for watching.